Hi, everyone. Sherry Sokolowski here from SLS Event Planning and Consulting, and I am really excited about today's interview. I have met David probably about, I don't know, 3, 4, maybe longer than that now, months ago through a client of mine where we're working in Arizona quite a lot. And I started reaching out to hotels in the Mesa area. And David reached out to me and said, "Hey, I noticed you're looking for properties in the Mesa area. How can I help?" So today we are in a series of different interviews that I'm doing with local tourism offices throughout different states in the US, connecting with David Colazar, who is the Director of Sales in Visit Mesa. And he is going to be talking and walking us through what Mesa is doing to prepare for everything to be reopened again, for live events or even vacations, and how we can utilize the partnership with our local tourism office and finding out what kind of regulations are being put into place for events and social gatherings, what hotels are doing, how prepared they are, and even the fun stuff, talking about what is happening in the Mesa area and why we would want to book our next event there or even our vacation in the Mesa area. So I'm so excited to bring on David Colazar. David, you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Hi, Sherry, and hi to our audience as well. Thank you very much for bringing me on. I know that you're busy, and then taking time out of your day, and then focusing on various parts of the country is great. Thank you very much for highlighting Mesa. I started with the destination management organization, Visit Mesa, back in October. Prior to that, I spent the majority of my time as a hotelier. Going back, my first hotel job was at a local independent hotel in North Scottsdale at operations front desk, night audit back in 2007. And then slowly but surely worked my way into sales. Started at the same independent hotel in a marketing representative role. Basically, we were their national sales. Being an independent hotel, they didn't have the backing of a national sales office, so we're out there, beating the bushes, trying to recruit some new clients and bring in new business. And then fast forward, to 2019 in October, I joined Visit Mesa in a role of Director of National Sales. So my main area of focus is to promote our destination for group meetings, group events, promote our hotel partners, our restaurant partners, our offsite venues, and really sell the destination as a whole, trying to differentiate ourselves from, a crowded playing field, in the Phoenix metro area. So we're going up against the knowns of the area, the Phoenixes and the Scottsdales of the world. But we try to do our job to make sure that we point out what the differences are between us and the rest of the region. Personally, I was actually born and raised outside of this country. I was born and raised in Budapest, Hungary. I came in on a swimming scholarship and then swam for Arizona State University from 2002 to 2006, and then sort of stuck around afterwards. So it's coming up on next year will be 21 years. Actually, I'm sorry,
Wow,
it'll be 20 years next year. Yeah, since
very
I
cool.
reside in Arizona. Yeah.
Right. So have you been in Arizona the entire time?
I resided in Arizona the entire time. Yeah, I've
Oh, great.
done some travel extensively, and when we're competing, with I swam for Arizona State University. So within back then it was the Pac-10 conference. So I've done some traveling, on business, so to speak, back then,
Uh-huh.
swimming, and then attending, different dual meets against various colleges that were representative of the Pac-10. And then lived in Hungary and the capital Budapest until I was 21 years old. Those are the two. My time is almost evenly split between the two countries.
Very cool. So as a world traveler and someone who's been in Arizona for 20 years, you've probably taken pride in knowing the area so well, which probably comes very handy as a director of national sales in the Mesa area, because you kind of know, what Arizona is like versus someone who just came into the area to take over the position.
Yeah. Mesa is almost a hidden gem
Yeah.
because of the products and availability of the resorts, in the surrounding areas. Mesa is, I'll be very honest, is a second tier city in the region. But a lot of people don't know that we have uh, unprecedented access to water in Mesa, Soar Lake, Salt River. There are a lot of open areas in Tonto National Forest that we promote to meeting planners when they come out on familiarization tours and site tours. Even though it's not necessarily part of their agenda, but it's always great to showcase what we have available, just in case if they're thinking outside of the box. And, lately, unfortunately, we don't know when it's going to be normal again, but a lot of meetings had a lot of discretionary income that they could spend on really truly immersing themselves and their attendees, letting them immerse in the local area and what it has to offer. So there were some opportunities for us to create some authentic uh, experiences
Right.
through our open areas and us being close to nature. We have great programs, with all of the local small mom and pop shops that are operating in Mesa that offer unique venues and experiences. Ecotopia is one of them that we have. And Queen Creek Olive Mill that we also represent, and those are some just great unique menus that you don't really find between a four wall like a normal general session area in a ballroom. So we have
Exactly.
those opportunities that we can showcase, and we continue to do that and to promote that to meeting planners to sort of differentiate ourselves. Mesa itself is, we have about 65 hotels that represent our area or our city, and the majority of them are your focus service properties, your extended stay properties, your Hampton Inns, your Courtyards, Residence Inn of the world. And we have 4 hotels that are group driven. We have a Sheraton,
Hmm.
Mesa. We have a Delta Hotels by Marriott. We have a Hilton Phoenix Mesa, and then a Holiday Inn and Suites Mesa Chandler. Those were more geared towards groups because they have large meeting spaces where groups can gather. Um,
Right.
and the majority of our hotels, like I said, are focus service. So perhaps, when it comes to, we're going to discuss the rebound and recovery of
Yep.
after the pandemic is over, hopefully pretty soon here, how are we positioned to rebound? And I think we are in a unique position because, in my opinion, the first that will come back will be leisure and business travel. I think probably the business travel will be a little bit faster to recover. I think companies will still have to send those reps out there. I think it will be easier to mitigate risks, health risks, if you travel on individually on business travel versus in groups and attending a group event.
Hmm.
You can easily socially distance. You can isolate yourself in your room, and then you can take the necessary precautions to visit your client, and then visit local offices as business travel will start up again, and those road warriors will get back on the road. Uh, the companies will have a little bit more money to do that, to fund that, because right now I think leisure travelers are still somewhat scared. And you don't know what tomorrow will bring. You don't know how much discretionary income you sort of want to hang on to. So I think we're well positioned in that regards of our hotel products and offerings in Mesa.
Yeah. I think what I'd like to recap, because David just shared a whole bunch of information with us, everyone, and I think the big points, I just kind of took notes here, is, and again, this is why I'm doing this series with the different people, the different cities in the tourism industry, is the relationship and the experience that, because your particular area, in this case, Visit Mesa in Arizona, very specifically, you can reach out to David in his office and say, look, I want to come to Mesa, but I don't really know anything about it. This is the experience I want my staff to have or my attendees to have. What can you share with me? So building the relationship with David in his office in Mesa is number one takeaway that you need to understand is important. Now more than ever, I think, for me, speaking personally, pre-COVID-19, I didn't really lean on David's office a whole lot because of my relationships over the 15 years of doing event planning has been really directly with the hotels themselves. But as we started developing our relationship, I started to realize that you know a lot more about the area than I do, and a lot of times the particular areas will have special offers and incentives to bring business to their area, and that's where David and I connected because he had an incentive program that he could offer to my client to book an event in the city of Mesa. So sometimes you'll have an incentive to bring your business to a particular city that you didn't know was there. And that's a great cost savings to you because they have that in their back pocket to be able to utilize with you. And another key point, point number 3, because I kind of hit on 2 points there. Point number 3 is the fact that David talked about some small business mom and pop shops in the area that have the flair of the local Mesa city life, that they can bring that experience to you. And right now, more than ever, we are trying to support our local mom and pop shops, our small business owners. So if you are considering going into the Mesa area and you want to be that person that helps support those local shops, then reach out to David and find out again. I'll make sure that I get that list from you, David, so that I could put it in the description notes in the video so people know that these are the shops within Mesa that you guys have partnerships with. And it's a great way for us to give back, number one, and number 2, a great experience and get a taste of the local flair.
Yeah, you touched on a lot of good points. So what happened, in the past decade or so, maybe even more than that, third parties, the Helms Briscoes of the world, the conference directs of the world did a phenomenal job marketing themselves to the end user. Your small independent media planners such as yours, SLS Events, outperformed most of the DMOs, in my opinion, and most of the CDPs of marketing themselves to them. So our role, in terms of selling a destination, perhaps, took a backseat because A, we were marketing savvy, or B, we're just an afterthought. And then what happened during this pandemic, a lot of the national sales offices and a lot of the third parties, unfortunately, had to furlough their employees, and then had to make reductions in staff availability. And then some of the DMOs, the way how the CDBs are being set up from a financial standpoint, they were able to withstand the first wave of that financial hardship that the pandemic brought. Going into the future, we don't know, what our finances are going to look like. Just the way how we are funded. Most of us have different funding mechanisms, but for us, it's a delayed effect in terms of finances. But we're here to fill that void that left, that the pandemic had left, and so most of the time, hotels either reduce staff or completely cut out sales staff, or just left it to one person to oversee multiple hotels. So from an availability standpoint, we're here to support our hotel partners. An availability standpoint, in terms of communicating to sales staff and then trying to book future business. We're here to fill that void. We're also doing, like you were mentioning, at the very beginning, when we first communicated via email and phone calls, I was promoting our destination and also available incentives that we have. So we continued that in a little bit of different form, because again, our financial structure is going to be different moving forward, just like, many associations and many corporate businesses are going to have to restructure and think about how they're spending their monies. But if you allow me, I can share my screen real quick, and I'll just let you know what we've done in terms of incentive to groups.
Mm-hmm.
So this is our so this is our revamped group incentive. There are some clear guidelines here, contract the number of room nights and incentives that we're able to offer to the end user. And the way how this is done is after the contract had gone into effect and it's being, countersigned, once the group rooms or the group had actualized and left the property, it will tell you up the number of room nights that they actualized.
Mm-hmm.
And then the payout will go directly to the hotel, and the hotel itself will apply that directly to the end user or their client's master account. So they can spend it anywhere. They could supplement their AV needs. They can supplement their food and beverage needs. I think moving forward, there will be new aspects of meetings that will require, more thoughtful planning when it comes to your budget. For example, we discussed, when we first connected about this call last week, we discussed about your bionic events.
Right.
Are moving forward, are you going to have a new department in your hotel that will be just in charge of, supplementing and supporting the virtual aspect of events? Is that going to come at an extra cost? So this financial support that we offer, perhaps could help a meeting, and could strongly consider Mesa versus other cities in the area to book a meeting with us. And then we know how hard meeting planners work, third-party meeting planners, and we had an incentive prior to this for meeting planners, but we actually relaunched it as well with a little bit of a revision to, so the meeting planner, let me take a look. The meeting planner incentive had been revised, but it'll continue until the end of our fiscal year. There are some guidelines here. Meeting planners can earn up to $100 and a Visa gift card. This will be sent out actually at the time of executing an agreement. And it starts at 50 contracted room nights and all the way up to 500 plus contracted room nights. Meeting planners can earn up to $100 Visa gift card. So that's another way for us to say thank you to those hardworking, meeting planners like yourself.
Yeah.
And as far as our moms and pops, we are known for, we're unique in regards of how many moms and pop shops are located on our main street, which is our downtown area, and just throughout Mesa. And so at the very beginning of the pandemic, what we have done probably was in mid-March, when everything was being shut down, major events were canceling. We had started a local campaign, for the love of Mesa, and we have separated into two different sections, supporting downtown Mesa, and then later on we expanded to all of our partners, even included non-partners. And we have posted their businesses on our website, specials that they've done, and we had a remaining staff who were redeployed to reach out to them on a daily basis, make sure that we're communicating any kind of to-go specials or curbside pickup specials that they have. They've been taking out a page in the East Village Tribune promoting our local businesses. And to date, we're still reaching out to them now as they're started to reopen. This past Friday, in dining experience was again allowed in the state of Arizona. So as they're preparing to reopen, we're also pushing out the message that, hey, they're open or not open, they're still open just for curbside. And then we've done this not just for restaurants, we've done it for local shops. There are a couple of jewelry stores on Main Street, a couple of hair salons. So we've included everyone in that, including our hotels too. At the very beginning, a lot of the hotels were trying to market for that limited business travel that was still available in the area, which was down to first responders, traveling nurses, those truck drivers that kept the supply chain alive. So we pushed those specials that the hotels were offering.
Great.
Yeah.
So you're just really confirming all of what I said before about the reason why reaching out to your local tourism office is the best way to build a relationship in that city, because you guys know it's not just about booking the next event, but it's about what is happening in the city altogether. Entertainment, restaurants, food, all of this
Yeah,
stuff is it's sort of a one-stop shop. So why not
it is.
utilize that opportunity? And then, like you said, with the unfortunate circumstances of the roller coaster effect or the snowball effect of what's happened with the pandemic, where hotels have had to furlough a lot of their employees, and other third party event planners. Like, I'm an independent planner who has my own business, so it's all about me and just trying to stay relevant and out there so my business survives through this. But other places where they have multiple event planners, because it's a third party company, events aren't happening, so they've had to furlough quite a bit of their staff. So
Yeah.
because of that, it's just, there's so many reasons why, again, because we're all in this together, to utilize the relationship and think of it in a different way. And I like to take this time just to remind anyone who's listening to this that it's the silver lining around this cloud, that we all know the event industry is going to change. We all know that the tourism industry is going to change. Your vacations, your leisure travel, your business travel, all of that will change. I mean, if you remember way back in the day with 9/11, how that changed everything at the airport. And now we're looking at how COVID-19 is going to change everything in our life from here on out. So working with that one relationship that you can establish and within that city, it's going to save you a lot of time. It's going to save you money. It's going to save you effort. And it's going to give you a better experience, because you're going to be able to touch base with those people and connect them to a better experience in your city, because you know your city best. So it takes me to a couple of questions that I want to make sure we have the time today to touch on. And that is, the general consensus of the planners, on the planner side, what we're doing for groups and bringing them back into meetings, things like that. I mean, I could definitely talk about it on my end, but I would love to hear it from your perspective of what you're seeing now that cities are starting to open back up. What are you seeing happening with events and the planning of them?
Yeah, I think there's still a large amount of unknowns and
Right.
variables that going into future events. Like for example, today ASAA just canceled their in-person event in Las Vegas. Was I believe due to occur in July, and they moved it completely uh, hybrid, or I'm sorry, completely virtual.
Virtual,
So
yeah.
not even a hybrid event. Um, I think decision makers are still, they don't have enough data on their hand to be
Right.
able to put a team of 15, 20 on an airplane, sending them out to attend an event. So I think there's still we need time to be able to comfortably say yes. We're going to host that event in September and October. A lot of people are still hanging on. A lot of planners are still hanging on to large events that have been canceled or have been confirmed
Hmm.
for that time frame. But those events, those larger ones, anything above 2,000 or 3,000 people, you plan ahead about 5 to 6 years. So they're hanging on and then hoping that they'll still be able to um, host those events. I think it's like I said, a lot of variables are coming into play. Local governments
Yes.
are going to be one of them. What kind of restrictions are they going to be able to place on large gatherings? There hasn't been much guidelines released by our governor yet, and I think that's probably true to most of the states.
Hmm.
But I think still not larger than 10 gatherings are allowed. Social distancing. I think at minimum, what will have to happen is meeting planners, hoteliers, and clients will have to work hand in hand, see what they're comfortable with, and adjust. In some cases, it will be a trial run. There will be mistakes made, and I think we'll have to learn from that.
Yeah.
But to mitigate those mistakes, we will have to mitigate the health risks. So I think. Most of the major brands had already came out with their plan of how to sanitize and then clean their rooms. They all come different initiatives for marketing reasons. But at the minimum, hotels will have to have for their staff masks. They'll have to have uh, uh, they have to have signage, clear signage, reminding about social distancing. I think they'll have to rely on their technologies. Hilton, I think, is had been a leader in terms of keyless entries. I've had a couple of stays, recently, not recently, but days are now months, and weeks are now seem like years. But
Yeah.
earlier this year, I was in San Francisco, and I was able to check in online on the way to the hotel in an Uber, and I was issued a digital key. So I, didn't if I didn't want to, I didn't have to go up to the front desk. I could just walk up to my room and check into my hotel. So I think technology will play a large effect, and planners are still waiting to talk to the decision makers, feel what they're comfortable with. They don't want to expose their clients to unnecessary financial burdens.
Right.
I don't think hotels have made any changes to their contract language yet. I think that's the next step. Under force majeure, they'll have to revisit that. Pandemic will probably have to come into play, and that word has to be inserted in there, moving forward, just to
Yes.
feel comfortable for you to go to your clients. Hey, you're protected. If should there be a second wave, should there be a third wave, hopefully there will be none. But I think they have to have some sort of minimum assurances, in terms of contractual language too.
Yes.
And I think it's still a little bit too early to plan those events. I think it's going to, the first wave is going to be like we talked about, will be business and leisure travel. Leisure travel, depending on how much money each family feels comfortable spending, and then those small regional gatherings, of maybe 25 to 50, where you have a local government office or a company that has a regional office, and people can drive in 2 to 5 hours from that office's location. I think decision makers will feel more comfortable putting or asking individuals to drive versus fly right now.
True. Yeah. And I agree with you too. I mean, from a meeting planner's perspective, for years, I've been working with clients on strategically planning your event to where events are really considered as part of your business. And it's not just something that you thought of, oh, I want to do an event, and it's a separate part of your business. It should be all encompassed into your business plan and what you're doing so that it could be a very successful part of your business and help you build your brand and building, your followers, and, our industry, they call it their tribe. And I think, as, like you said, trying to figure out what everyone's going to be comfortable with. I mean, number one, regulations. I mean, we all can have our wish list of what we want this to be like and how soon we can do it. And let's get out there. We're antsy. We've been doing this for a couple of months now. Let's get doors open. Let's get at it again. But the things that I'm finding out as I have my ear out there to hear what's going on is, number one, like you said, David, it's the government regulations. It's, CDC has their guidelines that they want you to adhere to in regards to social distancing, but it's really up, unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, to the governor as to what they're going to enforce. And it's also up to the individual properties. I know, it really depends, because if it is an individually owned property versus a corporate owned property, that's also something else too that we've got to know and look into. So, you got to unfortunately take some extra steps as we're approaching the time for us to figure out if we can have our live events this year in 2020, or if we need to wait to plan them for 2021. But it doesn't necessarily mean you have to stop the planning, the strategic planning part of it.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
I agree. Yeah,
we could,
yeah,
go ahead.
and I think it will actually require more groundwork moving forward
Yes.
to put on an event. So I highly encourage mini planners to take that into consideration. They'll have to perhaps spend a little bit more time getting a hold of the right people at the hotel, and then if not,
Right.
please pivot back to the CVBs and the DMOs of the world. We'll be happy to guide you in that in your task of finding out availability and then finding out who to talk to, and then we could also be your resources when it comes to the local city level, and then a larger statewide level. What kind of restrictions are in place. And then we have all this information available actually on our website too. So just like other organizations, we became sort of a clearinghouse of these various resources and information that is available out there, which I think to a certain degree is confusing because one organization says this and the other organization says that, as
Right.
some cases is contradicting.
Yes.
So who to believe to, and then then you have your own opinion as well. So it's definitely just back to your point. You want to start laying the groundwork now
Yes.
for your events, for your future events. You want to check on those availability or available meeting spaces and available guest rooms
Right.
and venues, and then trying to figure out your additional needs when it comes to are you going to do a hybrid or bionic event? Does the hotel have the infrastructure built, put in place, in terms of bandwidth? Do you need some additional, special equipment? Does the AV company at the hotel has in-house? Are they up to the task, or do you have to find a third-party vendor?
Right.
Some media planners actually have good relationships, with third-party vendors, so perhaps it's on their fingertips to be able to quickly gather that data. But there are there are definitely considerations going into planning an event. I think it will take a little bit more time to plan, and then it will be different to execute too. And then who knows how long this will last.
Right.
And I think in the end, I think we'll all learn something from this. I think
Absolutely.
that's one of the silver lining of.
Hmm.
I think we're going to be better, planning events and planning for
More efficient.
what ifs,
Yeah.
more efficient
Yeah.
than planning for the unknowns, and what ifs, and then have
Exactly.
an action plan, in case something goes wrong, in place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually had that kind of conversation. Those of you watching here, just want to remind you to check out all of my former and future YouTube channel videos, because I've had one of my first interviews I did in March was with a gentleman who is the CEO of Merchants. His name is John Whitley from Emergency Concierge International, and he came from Homeland Security, and his wife was an event planner. So when he retired from
Mm-hmm.
Homeland Security, he created this business of emergency preparedness at events. And we have been staying in touch since last August, before all of this. And I never thought that I would need such a service before. And
Yeah.
then when this started happening in February is when it kind of started trickling into the event industry. And I'm like, oh, John, what do you, and I saw an email come from him about what they're doing for their clients that were still having events as they could have them. And I just talked to him last week about what's happening now. And he's like, Sherry, quite honestly, a lot of what they're doing should have been, like you said, things that should have been in place before. A lot of what the hotels are putting in as guidelines for sanitation and things should have been in place before. The silver lining, again, like you were saying, of learning everything from this is the fact that, in my opinion, come next flu season, I don't think there's going to be as many people catching the flu because, everyone's hygiene is improved. The sanitation rules and
Yeah.
regulations put into place is going to help all of that. So there's a lot of things that I think are going to be positive out of this. But again, as to why you and I are talking today, it's about relationships and realizing and recognizing that things are, not only are things not going to be the same post COVID-19, and that's okay. I mean, it's some bad of it, some bad, but definitely a lot of good, depending on your perspective of things. But also, the people that you were talking with pre-COVID-19 may have changed. They may not be the same people in place, or unfortunately, may not be in business, or they still may be closed down for quite some time, or what have you. So again, going back to the relationship of reaching out to David in his office in Mesa and finding out, hey, I'm having difficulty finding help in this area. Who do you know? Who can you help connect me with? And that's where you can come into play. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, and as every successful business relies on good relationships.
Yes.
And those are developed over time. So we were fortunate enough that I'm the youngest member of the organization, but most of our leadership had been in place for over 7, 8, 10 years. So we do have our relationships with our partners and with our hotel partners, with our restaurants, with our providers, for excursions, cruises, and whatnot. So we could be, again, using that word again, clearinghouse of the information available out there.
It's true.
It can,
yeah.
It can put you in touch of different services that you need to run a successful event. We have a dedicated conference services manager that all she does is, after a group is confirmed to any of our hotels, is reaches out, at the time of the contract's signature, and offers our services that we're here. We're an additional layer of support, and then we can organize your your limousine pickup for VIPs.
Right.
We can put you in touch with those transportation companies. We can suggest an offsite venues. But again, moving forward, and the next norm for how
Yes.
long it will last, I think we'll have to be more creative, and we'll have to work in areas we haven't worked in the past. With
Right.
like, for example, my counterpart who is in charge of our sports initiatives. She's the director of sports. Brings in tournaments, which Mesa is known for. We have a lot of fields available. Unfortunately, because of the current, pandemic, most of those events were shut down and canceled.
Right.
But what she's done is she's completely done something different. She organized a family takeout night. It was one of the projects she was working on the other day, and we got together with the Downtown Mesa Association and with the city, and launched a new program for promoting our local businesses or restaurants for Wednesday to take out and feed a family of $44. So we'll have to, pivot to a certain degree and then get creative. Right. But going back to relationships, I think it will actually create more touch points, and then we'll create more resources and perhaps lasting relationships that we could capitalize on. Maybe capitalize on a good word, but we could build on, and that we could provide that as future resources for our groups that are considering Mesa.
Exactly. And I don't know if anyone caught this or not, but it kind of put a light bulb off in my head, is when we're talking about relationships and how you are there to help partner with us to try and connect us with other people in the area, you're not only just an extension of the local area of Mesa in this regard, because that's, we're talking in regards to Mesa, how you can connect us with different venues, different vendors, restaurants, hotels, and things like that, and limo services. But it's an extension of the client's help as well. So if you're a business owner right now who has done events in the past or wants to do an event in the future, and you're like, I had to lay off some staff, I'm not sure I'm able to bring them back, but I know I want to do an event and I'm just kind of shorthanded on the research, that's where David and his team comes into play. And I didn't honestly know this. I mean, I've been doing event planning for 15 years and didn't really know that you can lean on, the local tourism office and say, hey, my client is looking for this. And trust me, the last couple of years, I've done that in different areas, especially when you're venturing into a new city. that you're not 100% familiar with yourself, but the local tourism office knows everything about it. And I think now more important than ever, post COVID-19, you know what's still open. You know what could be you could use more business, because of the local relationships you have, and you know what works well. So establishing that relationship with these quote unquote end user, the client, the person who wants to bring an event there, or a family who wants to have a family vacation or what have you into Mesa, you can reach out to David and you can say, look, this is what I'm looking to do. Can you help me find the right place for it? And he might know it right off the top of his head on what to recommend, or it may take him and his team a little bit of time to figure it out for you. But they're there to partner with us as well as partner with the local venues as well. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, you're bringing up a very good point. We had a client that actually booked an event with us for 2021, and this particular person was having a hard time reaching out to services outside of the hotel that he had contracted in California. So I asked him, have you actually talked to the local DMO or CVB? And I was like, great idea, David. I haven't, but I don't even know who it would be. So, it took me about a couple minutes to figure out which CVB is in charge of his particular city in California. And I called the office, talked to the receptionist, asked who was handling hotel and resort sales of this size, and then I was immediately in touch with the person who I was able to share my clients' challenges, and she's like, "Oh, thank you for reaching out. Yeah, let me reach out to this person," and all of a sudden, he was in good hands. So we're a close community too, just like
Yes.
hoteliers, but I think hotels are rightfully so, especially in the past couple of years, they've been driven so to the side of what can what kind of revenues, what kind of incremental revenues can you bring in,
Sure.
and how can you keep that on property so the hotel is more profitable. So when you're talking to a hotelier, perhaps their mind and focus will be rightfully so to keep everything on site. But as you know, meeting planners would like to offer special offsite excursions, immerse,
Exactly.
allow their clients and their attendees to immerse themselves into a destination, so the event will be more memorable. And I think that's where DMOs and CVPs could come into play because of our relationships with those vendors that are available in the city.
Yeah, because a lot of the folks that are watching here, my clientele, they like to have great experiences intertwined into their event, not just at the event itself, what's actually happening in the room and outside the room, but also for their higher level clientele. So, they typically are called like VIPs or coaching members or what have you, and they love to be able to take them on excursions and have a great experience outside the hotel. So when that happens, they need to find, of course, a venue for that excursion. They most likely are going to need transportation for that excursion and any of the other things in between, like the what ifs. And with that happening, instead of having your staff, talking to the end user here, the client, having your staff research a cool place to go to and then researching and then getting prices for different transportation options. And then the what ifs, because we don't even know what the what ifs is. That's where, again, David's office could come into play in Mesa, because you're like, okay, what kind of budget you looking at? I'm sure these are your questions. What's your budget? Yeah. What kind of style or food type or what kind of excursion are you looking for? So that you're going to like, okay, boom, 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 boom. Here's some options for you. And then, okay, how many people are we looking at? Because here are the transportation companies. And, based on what's happening, because everyone listening to this is what David and his office does every day. They will be able to think outside the box, just like myself as an independent event planner. I can think outside the box of circumstances of logistical things that could come up during your visit there in the city, especially when you go off property and you're doing these excursions. You're like, okay, well, you may want to think about this. You may want to have a packed lunch because the hour could be a 2-hour ride, or something along those lines, where because because you've done them time and time again, you can suggest these things to the client, whereas their staff may not have thought of until it's too late.
Yeah, that's correct. We know the city a lot better than someone who's just placing an event there every 2 or 3 years. Different attendees coming to
Right.
town, and we have those relationships that are well established. We can take you out on a river cruise, paddling, stand-up paddle
Yeah, how
boating.
fun is that? Yeah.
We have a couple hour of boat rides. Who would have known? The Arizona is known for its water, but we actually have exclusive access to that in Tonto National Forest. We can take you out on horseback riding, ATVing, UTVing, hot air balloon riding. There's a lot of options. We sell in Arizona. We sell the outdoors, especially from January through April timeframe, when the rest of the country is under different weather conditions. And we
Yes.
have those resources
That's another
available.
great point. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's another great point. You know the best time of year to come.
we do.
Yeah, because that's the one thing with Arizona. A lot of my clients over the years wouldn't go to Arizona because it was hard to get in the time of year that you wanted to get into because it was so expensive. So if you call the venue directly, they're not, I know they want your business, they want to work with you probably now more than before, but to call someone like David and say, look, what are the best times of year for me to come to Mesa for these reasons? Budget, the weather, what is happening in the area, things like that. And you can share that information with them in a way that, to you, no matter what time of year they're coming, they're bringing revenue to the city. So,
Yeah.
that's your reason for wanting to serve. You just want revenue for the city, whereas the hotel will want revenue for the hotel at that point in time. They may, depending on the sales rep, they may say, well, my rates are $200 to $300 this time of year, but if you come back, and this is what I always hear, depending on the sales rep, but if you come back in July and August when it's 200 degrees here, then I can get you 100. Right? It's like, well, duh, I can answer that. I don't need
Yeah.
to, so.
And we're trying to find so many silver linings because there are just so many negative news
Right.
right now. So I think that would be one of them. And perhaps hoteliers are gonna hate me for this, but the sellers market, I think those days are perhaps over for the foreseeable future, and it's going to become a buyer's market.
Right.
So in terms of helping you negotiate a good hotel rate, we could still do that. But we have those relationships with the hotel sales managers where we're trying to fit a piece of business in there and trying to convince them, hey, these are the reasons why you need them. And perhaps our voice will be a little bit more persuasive versus a client that have no relationship with that particular hotelier.
Right.
And then we could guide you, where there's a market is very seasonal. We could guide you, what you're, based on what information you're willing to share with us, in terms of budget, what is the most important thing for the attendees. So we can guide you in terms of, what hotels you should consider, what offset menus and area of attractions you should focus in or hone in on. So we can definitely do that for you, and then utilize our extensive relationships in the area. And then yes, you hit right on a point where hotels are looking at their, again, rightfully so, their own individual property, and making sure that they're bringing to their ownership, they're providing a maximum amount of return on their investment. We're looking at it from a whole city approach, and
Right.
we're trying to figure out how that particular meeting that is coming in and meeting for 3 days, 50 people, what kind of food and beverage are they going to spend in the restaurants, surrounding the hotel? Are they going to, use transportation, getting in and out of the hotel? are they going to dine out on their own? Are they going to extend their stay? Leisure was a hot, term prior to heading into the pandemic.
Yeah.
Meeting attendees were extending their stay and staying into the weekend and being with their families, and that again meant additional dollars,
Additional revenues
coming into the city.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you can also point out, as you said earlier, Mesa has around 65 hotels, 4 of them specific for group events and things like that. So, you can just go right around, the venues and just reach out to David's office and tell him what your needs are. And he could say, well, you've got these options to choose from, and I, on your behalf, can reach out to them to see their availability and do a little bit of the legwork on the client's behalf just to see. Now, we're not saying here, I don't want to speak for David and saying that he's going to be your negotiating power for you, because, I don't want to speak on his behalf in saying that. What I am saying is that he is your relationship builder. He's going to know, he and his office are going to know everything about Mesa, what's happening in town, how they're being prepared, what is opening, what could use the business, what's going to give you and your attendees or your vacation the best experience possible, and build that with you hand in hand as you're building the relationship and as you're building your experience. So as we wrap up here, David, if you could share with those listening who are thinking, well, why should I come to Mesa? What's different from Mesa than other areas in Arizona, as I'm thinking about putting on a live event or even booking leisure travel?
Yeah, so our city has 2 major airports that are feeding our market. We have Phoenix Sky Harbor and we have Mesa Gateway Airport. So very easy access and easy lift into the market. Again, past COVID-19, perhaps the needs are actually changing from a meeting planner standpoint too. But what I can tell you as much as as regional meetings are coming back, I think we'll have a leg up in terms of our hotels are not necessarily those large resorts where you'll have to share for example, a foyer space or share perhaps an outdoor courtyard where you would feed people. So we'll have, I think our hotels will be more ready to adhere to the next normal, in terms of social distancing. Our unprecedented access to outdoor areas where, again, it's easy to social distance and probably safer outdoors than indoors. So if you want to
right.
Do some sort of still entice people to attend and do some sort of excursion, I keep referring to Tonto because it's a great area for you to experience, true Arizona. That's about a 15-20 minute drive from our downtown area. And then we are surrounded by a lot of moms and pop shops too. So especially this time, I think giving back to those small business owners, I think it will make you feel better, as a meeting attendee, and of course the organization.
Exactly.
I think that will be the right thing to do. Just to sum it up real quick, we have a unique product, for lack of better words, Agrotopia, where we have, we promote the outdoor dining. We mentioned Queen Creek Olive Mill. It's part of it. So there are great offset menus that we have in the future, and we'd love to make those introductions and utilize our relationship with those vendors, and make sure that we put you in touch and just make that planning of a future event much easier, and also coordinate with the local sales staff here. That hopefully it will be back to somewhat of a normal, pre-COVID in the next couple of months.
Yeah, we're all hoping that.
Yeah.
Yes. So thank you, David, so much for today. I thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule and sharing with us and everyone here about Mesa and how building a relationship with you in your office could be such a benefit to those that are looking to book their next event in Arizona, Mesa specifically, or even their leisure travel for business or vacation. I'm hoping that you can't really hear what's going on right here. The lawnmower guy came today and I said, wait till after my interview. Well, he waited 3 minutes after it just started. But thank you again for your
Yeah.
time. I think you covered a lot of great information in regards to what Mesa has to offer and how you and your office in Mesa, the Visit Mesa, can help with bringing business into Mesa. And I'm super excited about the next time I'm there. I'm going to be hopefully there in November. We have a particular property in Mesa that my client really loves. We have a great relationship with them. And we probably will be back there again in a couple of times next year,
Yeah.
just because of it. So I'm very grateful for your time. And again, those of you listening to this, I hope you walk away from this realizing that utilizing your local tourism office, in this regard, David and Mesa, is one of the best ways that you can utilize relationships within your business and even in your personal life when you're trying to look for, okay, I've been stuck in the house for a couple of months and I want to get out and I want to do some traveling. You can reach out to the local tourism office and find out what's happening in that area and find out what you can do while you're there, and maybe again reaching out to find out what small businesses in the area are still open and that you can give back and contribute to the local mom and pop shops that are out there and need our business. So there's lots of really big pros to reaching out to your local tourism office. And I hope we talked a good amount about that today that will be helpful to you. If you have questions about today's interview that you would like me to address personally or reach back out to David, please leave your comments below, and don't forget to like this video and share it with those that you find would be helpful for them to understand what Mesa has to offer. Again, this is Sherry, the strategic event planner at SLS Event Planning, here to help and serve you. Stay safe and stay in touch.